Finance Committee meeting. I'm Vice Chair Matt Sala. Our Chairman Dan Eddy is on remotely. I'm not sure what you'll be able to see, but he's there with a few of us who are joining remotely. Tonight we have a pretty good agenda in front of us. We have the budget review presentation with the town assessor. I see Jolanta is with us here. And then we're going to discuss the revenue portion of the budget with the town manager and the finance director. We're going to review outstanding meeting minutes, look at correspondence, which I did not get. Did anybody look at the mailbox? All right, we're not going to look at correspondence. We'll get liaison reports, and then we'll just discuss the schedule for future meetings. Dan's going to control as much as he can control from out there. I'm going to do what I can from here. We're all going to put it together and make it work. So do we want to start off with our town assessor? Oh,
well, I think one, if we just introduce our new recording secretary, Kelly Murphy.
Kelly Murphy, present and accounted for.
Kelly, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking us on.
You bet.
We appreciate having a recording secretary again.
And we will get some name plates, I guess, so we can help identify who's who. But, in the meantime, if we want to just go around and introduce ourselves to Kelly, that would be helpful.
Hi, Kelly.
Hey,
How are you? It's a pleasure to meet you.
you as well.
That's all.
I'm Barbara Ray.
Brooke Belzerian.
Nice to meet you.
Paul Hagley.
Nice to meet you.
Do you know me?
Yep.
Then online.
Yes, Yolanda Griffith, the assessor.
Dan.
And we have Dan. You've met Dan. She's met Dan.
Okay.
Eddie and Andrew.
Nice to meet you. I'm probably the happiest to see you on board.
I thought you'd be jumping for joy.
The meeting that we elected officers, so he is the board secretary. So he is definitely the happiest to see you here.
Okay.
All right. I think that's all I wanted to throw in there for now.
All right. Do you want to jump into the assessor's budget?
Absolutely. Andrew, you're gonna put my presentation on screen, please? Thank you. Good evening. As you know, my name is Yolanda and I'm your town assessor. The assessor's mission is to value real and personal property. We establish annual tax levy. We provide support to residents when they need assistance, understanding and navigating the valuation process. We assist when applying for appropriate relief through abatement process, which is usually the month of January or when the actual tax bill is sent. Some of our achievements are abatements filed and resolved successfully in fiscal year 22. We inspected a lot of building permits. We resolved appellate tax court cases, and we set the tax rate in a timely manner. Our goals are to continue providing exceptional service to residents and businesses, maintain clear updates and regular communication with the town management, and implement software upgrades to the latest version of Vision. Right now we have Vision 6, which is no longer supported, so we're gonna upgrade to Vision 6.5. And that's something we have to do because, like I said, it's no longer supported, and if something went wrong, we will lose our app.
Is Vision an on-prem
Excuse me?
solution? Is that on premises here, or is that something in the cloud?
It's not in the cloud, but we will be on the cloud.
Okay, is that where you're
Right now,
migrating to?
Yes,
Okay.
right now Wayne supports the IT person support. So here's my budget. Salaries. My salary, Jody, my chief clerk, bookkeeper, and Michelle, who's part-time right now, she's my clerk. We are seeking approval from FinCom of a current 20-hour-a-week position to increase to full-time to 32 hours. It will give us a concrete reason to remove 500 residential inspections that Vision does for us right now. But we had some negative experience with them where we had to have them redone in July. The overwhelming majority of data collectors, they do not live in Massachusetts. They're from Connecticut and Rhode Island. They do not know the town. Residents are concerned when they see different license plates in their neighborhood. So that would decrease our contractual obligation by $6,000 annually, which could go towards the full-time position.
Quick question.
Yes,
Is Vision both a software company and a company that we bring people in to do assessors? Okay,
Yeah.
just making sure on that.
yeah. So like I said.
Wondering if it was maybe
We have them out here with boys from, gentlemen from Connecticut, and then we have to have it redone because the data was just incorrect.
So if we're increasing the salary for that, where's the offset is in the expense side? Because I'm assuming we're bringing something on board, paying them, so where's the offset of the budget?
We would take the 6,000 out of Vision and put it towards, Michelle's, salary.
But is that reflected in this budget? Because I'm not sure which line item that shows up in the reduction. Because I would assume you're increasing the budget here in salaries,
Yeah.
so would there be an offset?
It wouldn't be, we are still in contract with them till fiscal '24, so it wouldn't take effect until fiscal '25.
So no offset. Got it.
What was the approximate cost of having to go back out and redo the assessments?
They did not charge us,
Okay.
it was $6,000. So right now, Michelle is making 23,396. If she went full time, she would be making 39,833. It's a difference of 16,437 minus 6,000. So we are asking for 10,437. And she does
And-
not need health insurance.
And she is the clerk?
Correct.
Okay.
And she has.
Anybody protesting stop operator, and down and have issues with the gate on the head. So we are stopping. For, we'll let you know, we call to the day and want to get.
I think it's Chris.
Chris, I think you've got volume coming through.
Okay.
And Michelle has worked for Vision for over 7 years, and she was in contract with us to do our permits, which she has been doing prior to being hired into Joe Shea's position. She knows the town very well, very knowledgeable. She's an asset to the department, so.
Is it 32 hours a week?
Correct. Yeah.
How do you pick that number? How, 40, 32, how do you pick 32?
Those are the town hall office.
That's
staff
the
hours.
union.
Got it.
Yeah, yeah.
What was the collective bargaining increase from 23 to 24?
What's the question, Marty?
What was the salary increases from 23 to 24?
Well, mine was 2%. Jody's is, excuse me?
Was it 2% across the board?
Correct. So then we have the longevity and the stipend. As the stipend is the buyback on vacation time. And longevity is based on how long you work here. So if we go back to, if we go down to my expenses, they pretty much the same, they haven't changed. Education and training is the same. The professional and technical, that's Vision, RRC, which is our personal property company. Postage, we do a lot of postage because we have to send out income and expense statements, sales questionnaires, office supplies, it says it's fuel, the car supplies, other supplies is such as a new camera or a new measuring stick that we might need. Travel, we didn't have much because obviously of COVID, and then dues and fees.
So other than salaries, the other biggest line item is other professional technical. What's in that line?
I think she said that was Vision,
Oh,
Is that both?
That's Vision and Real Estate Research Company, which is a personal property company that goes out to all the businesses in town and lists all the equipment that they have.
And how much is that Vision contract?
Vision contract is about 35,000, and then Real Estate Research is the rest.
Do we ever have to put that Vision contract out for bid? And see if there's anybody else?
Yes, we do, yeah, yeah.
When was the last time that went out?
3 years.
Okay. Is there plans to do it anytime soon?
She says it runs out in the end of
after
2024,
FY '24.
Correct, yeah,
so we'll do it then.
yeah.
And if the clerk position is increased to full-time, we would be looking for less in the next contract, or
I'm sorry.
if the clerk position is increased from part-time to full-time, we would be looking for a lower cost in that line, in that contract?
Yes.
After FY '24?
Absolutely, yeah. We just removed the 500 permits that Vision does for us.
And that was $6,000 around, you said, right?
Yes.
So is Vision doing what this additional hours, the person we're adding now, are they doing the same thing?
What do you mean?
So Vision is under a contract to do certain services.
Correct.
We're increasing the hours for somebody. Are those additional hours, is it the same role that Vision performs as what this person is going to be doing with the extra hours?
They under contract to do 500 permits. We would eliminate that, and we would have Michelle do those permits.
Okay, but we're not gonna get any savings this year, so what are we
Not
paying?
this year, no.
Right, so why would we do that now if we are under contract and they're supposed to do the services?
Well, we would like to do that for them.
Is this an employee
Yeah, we are in fiscal '23,
That's the-
so
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Is the idea employee retention, so she doesn't find something else?
we are in fiscal '23, so the contract expires in fiscal '24. So, yeah, that change would be for fiscal '25.
Right, but I feel like we're paying for the same thing twice. If Vision is doing that and this person is doing that, what are we paying Vision for then?
Or I think more to what Paul is saying is, if the contract runs through the next fiscal year, would it make more sense to increase her from part-time to full-time in the next fiscal year instead of in this coming fiscal year?
But I could also negotiate with Vision and see if we could eliminate them doing our tournaments.
Some of the cost from the
Exactly.
last year
Yeah.
of the,
And they are very flexible.
So what you're saying is you might have some leeway to get out of some of that
Yeah.
because you have somebody that could cover those services.
Yes.
But has there been any action taken to do that today?
I have spoken with Vision, yes. But it all depends on what you guys decide.
Well, can I just ask, like, I'm not sure, like, how we're to decide, like, it's your budget. It's the town. We're here to just, do what we do is ask questions.
part of what we do is we work with Yolanda, with Scott, with Andrew, to determine which things can actually make it in the budget or not. So I'm changing a position from part-time to full-time, adding additional positions, taking positions away. Those we have, as we're going through the entire budget, we look at all of the different departments and work to figure out which things are the priority. So at this point, we're looking at things that might make the final budget. So I think that's where.
And there, again, you know, this probably isn't a time where you actually even have to make a decision on it, because my thought would be, we would hear all your departments, because they all have needs. Now, and I probably should have started off this way after the introduction, was as we started off this budget season, we sent out the budget message saying, look, right now, we're looking for level service. You know, we're contractual obligations, any increases that you have in expenses that we know we can't control, put that in your budget and keep it to that. In so much as if you do have an ask, then it's incumbent upon you to justify what that ask is. And you will see a couple of them, and Yolanda is one, who's has a need in their department. She feels that they need that person to be that position. It's really, again, we should only be looking at it as a position and not the person. It's great that the person that's in there does have some experience and has worked with Vision, but that's not something that we can always count on. So we look at the position, and does that position actually justify being a full-time position? You're going to hear the Department of Public Works is again going to be looking. They had asked in the past several times for two laborers. Last year we did approve one, and I know they're going to ask for, and they're going to have to try and justify that. So somewhere between now and the end of March, we're going to hear from everybody, probably some of them twice, and then we're going to vote a budget. And we can vote two budgets. You guys can have one and I can have one.
I was just
We
gonna take
typically
that.
don't do that. I don't want to see it that way. So that's what these conversations are all about.
And I think it's important for,
Since we've done.
I think it's important for us to hear what the departments, the departments are going to present their budget to you. And then there's things that you're going to say, I'm not going to put that in the budget. And that's your budget. But when they come to us, they should tell us everything also. And we should decide, as a group, to vote whether what we feel after we hear all of the budgets and all of the needs. We may disagree with your budget, or we may agree with your budget, or we may say, hey, Scott, can you do something in your budget to make this happen? But if we don't hear it and know about it,
Yeah,
And at least to this point, Scott has been very good about working with us on what our priorities are and kind of
and that's a big
factoring that
thing.
into what his priorities are and where the budget goes.
You know, that we're going to have some really good discussions in this year is setting the priorities. And I'm going to start that process with the selectmen on Monday going forward. But a couple of the big asks have been a town planner, or or do we need an HR person? We're gonna have those conversations. The town planner, the planning department is gonna have that in their budget, and they're gonna discuss that with you, why they think it's important. I'll give you some thoughts of my own. But at the end of the day, Andrew and I are probably still a week or two away from actually that first draft budget. We'll have it actually next week for the selectmen, and you can see it. It'll be refined probably before we meet again. But we're not even sure what we can afford 100% at this point. So, again, this is just the beginning. This is your first one, and we're going to have a lot of the conversations. And again, like I said, some of them are going to be in here twice.
Just
Is
to
that-
add,
is that cleared up now?
our office, the assessor's office
Feel
always
better?
had two and a half employees plus the assessor.
We say that again, Yolanta, I'm sorry.
I said, I just wanted to add a bit of information. The assessor's office always had 2.5 people plus the deputy assessor. At some point, there was a turnover where they never filled that one position.
Right.
And a lot of the departments have 3 people plus the department head. I have 1.5.
Yep.
If one of my clerks is sick, it's just me, a half a person.
Are you finding that you have a hard time taking care of residents' requests for abatements?
Well, the abatement process will be this January. It depends how many abatements we give.
Just real quick.
But I have to go out and inspect every property. Go ahead, Martin.
Hi, Tom. Just real quick. So aside from the 2% increase in salary, your entire department was level funded at the exact same rate. The only increase would be the moving the part-time employee to full-time, which represents 8% of your entire budget,
Yes.
to about 18,000 extra. That would be the only increase from last year that you would need to make.
Yes,
And you can offset a lot of that from renegotiations of the vision contract.
with vision,
So that's what the headline should read, right?
yes.
Okay.
In the overall town budget, Board of Assessors is what percentage? $252,000 out of $63 million. You're right. Yeah, I mean, I feel like guilty asking the question, but it's there. It's like having a hiring, adding hours, and then you have a contract where it's like, are we paying for the same thing?
Paul, don't feel guilty asking the question. That's what we're here to do.
Yes.
So,
Somebody else surely has it. We just happen to be asking it. Are we in evaluation year?
We are at an interim year adjustment. Yeah.
Okay.
We do those every year, and then now the Department of Revenue has us do a full revaluation every 4 years,
So this is the,
interim year,
so this is not one.
it is not.
Years.
not a,
Okay.
Thank you.
There's a good chance your tax bill's still going up.
Jeez.
Valuation.
Wouldn't that be a
It's okay. No other costs are going up, so it's not a problem.
Should be fine.
Andrew, Chris, Dan, anybody online have questions for Yolanta?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, no questions.
Anybody else with other questions?
No, I don't have any questions about the budget, but just the presentation, do we need the names? Can we just stop at
We
the titles?
typically we see the names, but we shouldn't be.
Salary line.
Yeah, because I don't,
We don't typically see the names, we typically see the position.
We usually see the names. We
Sometimes,
don't,
depends on the department.
But remember, we do also publish everybody's name,
Yeah.
everybody's salary.
Everyone's name is-
Annually in
we've
the,
always just
in
used
the
the
town
position
report.
when
So it's not a
speaking.
secret, but we can definitely put that, so it's just position.
Because like you said,
that's why when I,
sometimes we,
I don't know why.
you know,
We should be talking about positions.
right, we
Yeah.
just should be
Yeah.
talking about the position.
And I think
Agreed.
Marty did ask a good question earlier with the clerk looking to go from part-time to full-time, which was, is this potentially a staff retention thing where we're looking to do it to make sure we don't lose a valuable person on staff?
She's very valuable.
So,
Yeah. She really is. She knows her stuff. She picked up the first week. She's been very valuable. And like I said, she doesn't need health insurance.
which, as much as we wouldn't like it to be, is definitely a concern. Any,
You want to, I don't know if you want to touch on, I know you didn't hit it when you talked about some of the stuff that you were doing down in your office, but you are making some new research stuff available to everybody on properties. Andrew, do you think you could bring up the CAI screen? Do you remember? Were you part of that?
What screen?
Is that on your website now? Is it live?
Yep.
I mean,
It's on our website, yep. That's how we get the abutters list ready for people.
it just, it hadn't been available. It's just another tool that folks can use if they're researching properties, or if you wanted to research your own property, as opposed to the older tax maps, or looking and doing Google searches, or Zillow. Yolanda's office has their own that we've had in-house that they're actually unlocking it for pretty much anyone to look
Yeah,
at.
for the public to see.
And it's a great tool for us to use in-house, that all the department heads can use now too. When doing research, whether it could be the building department looking to do some zoning research, or planning department, conservation looking for wetlands. And it's actually something that it's not opening it up to the public and letting everybody else use it. There's no additional cost to this. This is just a tool that's been there and it's available, and it's been more refined. Just not.
website?
It should be, yeah.
Can you put me in the right direction?
Online property evaluation, data evaluation?
This one?
No, that's a classification presentation. Right?
We already did that.
Right there.
We did.
Let's get a vision database.
Oh my goodness. I guess we should just do this another night.
Is this what you're looking for? Or?
No,
No,
whatever that is though, it looks pretty interesting.
wait, tax maps?
Spreadsheets there.
Is it tax maps?
No, I looked in there earlier, it wasn't on tax maps. And if. All right, well, I will bring it up for you guys next time we meet. It is pretty interesting, and certainly we'll have it prepared for when you meet with the selectmen, because I think they would like to see it also.
Yeah,
What
it'd
is
definitely be interesting to see.
What does this link do? It just shows you what an area looks like Google Maps or
pretty
something?
much, yeah.
It's like Google Maps with property lines in it, with boundaries in it, with wetland delineation in it, contours. I don't know how many different layers that we were able to
It's a
put up.
lot of layers.
Yeah, so it's just an extremely useful tool for pretty much every department in here. You can use it to, you know,
Andrew, it's GIS.
Maybe in the search.
Is there a link to it here?
Well, I have it on my desktop, so I'm,
all right. I say we move on.
We'll have Scott send that
I
out.
will get it to you guys through an email that you can all click on. Actually,
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Yolanta.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate you coming and talking with us.
Thank you.
All right, our next item on our agenda is to discuss the revenue portion of the budget and process with the town manager and finance director.
this is the Andrew Show.
Looks like Andrew is prepared.
Yeah. The data this is last week, but we couldn't meet, so I'll update that.
We'll allow it.
All right, so what we're talking about tonight is the revenue portion of the budget, and where does the money come from? Just before we start, all these numbers are based on FY23 budget projections. So there are four main sources of the revenue for the town. First one is the tax levy, that accounts for about 65% of the town's revenue. Then we have state aid and local receipts at 25% and 8% of the town's revenue. And the remaining 2% is from enterprise reimbursements. And I'll talk about all these categories coming up. The tax levy, basically that's all the real estate and personal property tax that residents and businesses pay. This is subject to limits. We can't just raise everyone's taxes if we want to. We can't increase it by more than 2.5% per year unless the town votes to do so. And also, it can't be more than 2.5% of the total value of the town. If you think about recent economic conditions, there's been a lot of inflation going on, so we're limited by Prop 1.5, and that makes it difficult to balance the budget every year. We can't just raise taxes and match expenses. You have to stay within 2.5%. For people's curious about what the total ceiling is, the town is worth about 2.8 billion. And if you take 2.5% of that, that leaves a levy ceiling of about 70 billion. That's a lot of space, or 60% away, or 60% of the max. And it would take 22 years of consecutive maximum year-over-year increases to hit that ceiling.
I'm sure the ceiling will have raised by then too.
Well, yeah.
We would hope.
The way we do the budget estimation is basically just take prior year's numbers, increased by 2.5%, and then we add in new growth. And that's basically the tax base on any, newly built properties, any new construction that wasn't there before. As far as building goes, this is a very stable source of revenue. In the case of economic downturns, banks will step in and pay tax bills in order to not lose their property to the town. And if you're worried about the housing market, we do have a bit of insulation. Average sale prices in the town for the past year are about $550K, while average valuations are about $400K. So even if house prices start to drop, there's still some leeway in there, so the tax base doesn't hurt. Any questions on tax levy?
Andrew, do you know the projected net growth for this year? New growth?
For 23, for fiscal 23, we have new growth of about 250,000. And right now, for fiscal 24, we're expecting 200,000.
Thank you.
Any other questions on tax levy? All right. The next component of the town's revenues is state aid. There's a variety of programs that the state does to supply municipalities with money. The biggest one we use is Chapter 70, and that funds the schools. This is based on a complicated formula that takes into account student enrollment, demographics, geographical differences, and other economic factors. Every year, the state calculates what's called the foundation budget, which is the level of spending that the school district is required to reach in order to ensure an adequate education. Whatever is not covered by state aid must be paid by the town. For fiscal 22, we have a foundation budget of 26.6 million, and spent 31.8 million. So we beat that target by 20%. We had 11 million state aid for that year, not including deductions for charter schools and school choice.
Andrew, what was that 31 million related to?
That is how much the town spent on education.
Does that include retirement, health benefits?
Let's see. Yes, it is inclusive of that. That's what's in the school year and end of year report. But that's, some of those items are baked into the budget as opposed to in the school line item.
Right, that's why I'm asking the question. So, because if it's a $63 million budget, you're saying 31 is all in for the schools and 50% of the town's budget goes to schools. That seems awfully low.
Because if we allocate the pension and the health insurance costs, anyway.
So I'm asking then, is that 31 million, is that all in for the schools? Includes health,
Yes.
retirement? Are you 100% positive on that? Because that seems low for a municipality to be only spending 50% of their town budget on education.
It's not low at all. That's 52%. I've never seen it below 50%, but
When you go all in for the
I
schools.
thought we were in the 60%.
Yeah, exactly. I thought we were at 65% range. When you go all in for all costs. For healthcare, retirement,
Barbara, what do
insurance.
you recall with that?
People used to say it was a 60/40, but it wasn't actually.
It's always been hard to get the exact,
Yeah.
because there's a lot of like shared
50-something, you know.
utilities and stuff like that, but
Yeah, because some of that stuff, like the healthcare and retirement, that's kind of off books from the schools.
Yeah.
But
I
I'm only
think,
asking because, Andrew, you presented at $31 million, and that's only 50% of our budget. And that just seems low.
I think we've increased things on the town side over the years, for sure. So what used to be a 60/40 is,
we have
Possibly,
increased on the school side as well, so, I don't know. I thought it was higher than that too, Paul.
Yeah. Andrew, I look at you,
Yeah.
we can follow up on that another time.
We can definitely talk about it
Yeah.
when we're talking to the schools.
Right. Who is the liaison for the school?
Sorry, Andrew, please continue.
Andrew, I got a question. All right. Is it accurate that the Chapter 70 won't decrease year over year, but we don't, it's not a guarantee that it'll continue to increase like it has?
it can decrease.
Nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Nothing's guaranteed. But with the election results, you know, we got a new governor and fresh Montana.
fund expenses.
So it's reasonable to expect
Education.
things to not drop, but nothing is ever guaranteed.
All right, got it.
We have had years where we've received less in Chapter 70.
Like less of an increase, or if it actually went down?
It went down.
See, I've always gone by this, but I'll have to ask them because
Perfect. So that Chapter 70 comprises the majority of state aid. I'll just go down the list and explain the other items. Charter commission. So this is compensation that the town receives for students that leave their charter schools. Chapter 70 aid follows the student, so we have to pay tuition for them, and these are for an art education budget. The way this works is that reimbursement starts at 100% in the first year, but then drops to 25% in subsequent years. Between school choice and charter tuition, we pay about $1 million in tuition. So that's, even though you see 13 million out there, we're chapter 70. You have to remember that $1 million of that is being spent out for school choice and charter schools. The next item on the list is unrestricted general government aid. This is formula-based and comes primarily from lottery proceeds. Veterans benefits, that's reimbursement from state, and they pay us about 75% of the benefits that we pay out. We also have exemptions for veterans, blind, and surviving spouse. When the town grants abatements and exemptions to certain qualifying individuals, the state will reimburse us depending on their class. The reimbursement ranges from about 18% to 100% of the abatement. And finally, state-owned land. So the state owns land in the town, but they don't pay taxes on it. And this is an attempt to make the town whole for that. This is another formula-based item. It takes into account the value of the land as well as a historical statewide average tax rate.
Andrew, can I just ask you on that $13 million for the chapter 70? What are you estimating it's gonna be for FY '24?
For 24, we have no idea. Let's go into how we get these numbers.
Okay.
The first step is the governor's budget. And the governor has not yet been
Sworn in.
so we don't have a budget.
Can you enlarge that?
That starts usually in January.
Andrew, can you,
But it involves over the next couple of months after that as the state legislature reviews and tweaks proposals. In the past, the governor's budget has always been the most conservative estimate, so we use that to, we take that as the town's budget. Any additional funding that comes later isn't guaranteed, but if necessary, we can appropriate extra amounts at special town meeting before we set the tax rate. You can find this, if you Google charter sheets, you can find this on the state website if you're interested. As I mentioned briefly earlier, based on the election results and the fact that question one passed, it seems likely that we'll be getting an increase in aid, but again, nothing is guaranteed. Any questions on state aid?
Andrew, typically, we receive the governor's budget closer to the end of January. Is that correct?
Correct. That's how it has been in the past.
And when there's a reduction in the chapter 70, everybody in the town takes a hit on that. I mean, the money's,
Everybody in the state takes a hit, but
Yes.
yes.
I'm just saying,
But yes, everyone.
we don't just pull it out of the school department. Correct.
Yeah.
And when there's a significant increase, it doesn't all just go to the school either, so.
And that, I mean, that specific thing came up last year too. We had a significant increase. I believe it had to do with the ESL population increasing in Abington. The school actually, when it was under budget, when you compare it to last year, if I remember correctly, has an increase on chapter 7.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments? All right. The next component of the budget, local receipts, so 8% of the town's revenues. And this comes from a variety of sources, the biggest of which is motor vehicle excise tax. But we also collect taxes on marijuana and meal tax.
Do you know how much?
It's right there,
That's the profit?
Second.
down the bottom.
It's missing a zero, right? I was gonna say. Huh.
Greg is waiting for the millions to roll in.
Getting there. Kids.
That was last year.
Yeah, this year.
Cumulative,
Yep.
we'll get there.
Cumulative millions.
But that number isn't, that's like a high watermark, because the way the state changed it, we're not even.
No, that one's
That's
good.
local.
That's the local optional tax, so.
The additional
With the-
tax at the.
The additional, wasn't a tax, it was more of a, offset fee.
Something.
Yeah, that we'll no longer be able to, yeah, which was pretty much the same amount, it was 287,000 plus or minus for the one business that we have. We do fully anticipate 2 entities to be operating in next fiscal year. The one that's already there, obviously, and then the one on Adams Street. There's 3 other that are licensed, whether they'll open and operate, I don't know. You know, a lot like we did last year, we didn't allocate in the offset money, and we wouldn't do it again because we won't assume that it's going to be there.
Right.
If we, on exactly what you just said, if the people who have the licenses are not operating, can we take the licenses back? Because the whole town got together and voted to do it, to give out 5 licenses.
Yeah.
So if people are just holding on to them for whatever, maybe it's just a,
Well, they're in various stages of permitting. They're not, the ones that have it are not just holding on to it. So, what ultimately, we may come into agreement with somebody else. It's whoever actually gets their special permit to operate first.
Okay.
And we don't guarantee that when we enter into a host agreement. You may or may not get your special permit if you
Right.
come in.
Alright, besides the excise taxes, town also charges fees for services and licenses and permits and things like that. We also, the Medicaid reimbursement, so the fire department provides medical care, and they don't turn people away if they can't pay. So that represents a partial reimbursement from the federal government that we apply for each year. And also, emergency, so people who do have insurance, that's their fees for using the ambulances. As far as.
Can I just go back? I had a question on the,
Go back a slide.
Oh, yeah.
so like the penalty line, that's we budget $220,000. What do we estimate it thinks is we pay to recoup those penalties and interest? Like, what does it cost us to go out and recoup that?
I don't know off the top of my head. The treasurer would be able to answer that a little bit better since she's involved with that process.
Okay, and then the investment income, what's the source of that?
Investment.
It's probably right.
Usually the trust and stabilization funds, the interest rate is low, but it is non-zero.
7 million last year.
If there's anybody else, we're going to wait for the chief and all to come on. If with the new fire station plans, is there plans to increase the amount of ambulance teams and potential receipts from ambulance?
There's no intention to increase staffing unless, obviously if there's population growth and stuff like that, but we don't anticipate by having, a newer firehouse that we'll get more calls than we do. I think what would be nice, and you will see, and we will have a discussion on purchasing a new ambulance. We have been having some trouble with them, and we've been borrowing. You might have seen lately, there's been one from Norwell that we've been borrowing. But I don't anticipate, just by adding more crews, we wouldn't necessarily get more runs.
Yeah. Daniel,
Yeah, wouldn't increase demand, yeah. Yes.
Barbara might be able to talk a little bit more to this because it was expanded from one ambulance running to two before I was on the committee, but there's been a lot of discussion over the years that I've been on if running the second ambulance was actually cost effective. And to this point, it has been cost effective, but I think it wasn't as much of an increase as it was originally expected to be.
Right.
I don't think running additional, like a third ambulance would be in the plans, but
If the receipts weren't necessarily covering the cost to run, it wasn't self-funding.
Right.
However, it is a necessary service to provide to the residents. So getting that second ambulance, but it wasn't self-funding, so I don't think that they'd add additional where, like I said, it wasn't, there was some net loss, I think,
yeah, I think.
as far as,
Because at one point up until a couple of years ago, the ambulance was essentially a separate section in the budget.
Right.
It was separate from the fire department. But because it was not fully covering itself, it was moved back into the fire department budget. I know there were concerns by the DOR with having it separated out and the way that it was being budgeted and the way that we were tracking it and things. They had concerns with, like Barbara said, essentially it appearing like there were losses in the department funding. I do know that when it was put in place, it was after the 2008 budget issues. And it helped, like running the ambulances and having the firefighters also being EMTs and able to run that helped us get the fire department back to full shifts and having enough people on their shifts. It helped cover the costs to do that for the town.
and definitely, the billing, there was a kind of an ambulance review committee, so to speak, that really tightened up, maybe we were undercharging insurance companies, we weren't getting reimbursed maybe what we should be. So they changed some of the structure to get the numbers to be a little bit where they should be compared to like maybe a private ambulance company, what they were charging. So they have done a lot of work, the fire chief and different member of this group and different ones over the years to try and get those numbers.
Tighten up the ship.
Exactly. Yeah, so it's.
I mean, there was definitely a pitch though that the ambulance was going to pay for itself. Especially this new one because it's heavier duty and can do better things. And
I don't think ever that it was going to pay for itself, but they've done studies, there was a study done a while back, and then another study done. They've done a couple of studies, which I'm sure Chief Nuttall would be able to give that information.
I think maybe, Greg, what you're talking about was when we were purchasing a new ambulance.
Yep.
And I think it was more that we were essentially dumping a lot of money into repairs for the ambulance that it would be replacing.
I'm thinking.
And so.
And that one could go to different calls or something like that, because it could.
There were additional calls that it would be able to go to, so that the difference between running the old one that was constantly needing repair and out of service
Would pay for itself over a period of time, I think.
Yeah.
I thought you meant
Yeah, no,
that the service of that ambulance was going to.
It was just like this new one would cover
Yeah.
extra costs because it was, you could
Yeah.
go more things or whatever.
that was definitely part of
Well,
it.
it's one of the few service obviously are important, but it's one of the few services that has the ability to pay for itself, that's, versus a tax or a fee being levied on a resident, so.
Yeah.
That's why I asked the question, if there's potential to grow it, then let's do it, but it sounds like it wouldn't necessarily work out in the end.
They definitely have looked at it, and you can talk with Chief Nuttall too about, I know that the reimbursement rate and some of the insurance companies, Scott, you must know.
Yeah,
that,
yeah,
it's anything.
It's always a struggle, and every year it's gonna get worse.
And even though, it costs you or you're charging, this is your fee, that doesn't mean that's what they're gonna pay you.
Yeah, I mean, and, any decisions like that will be probably made on, call volume issues. We had too reliable, right now that they're having some issues with the ambulances, but, I think they're too reliable and there's always a backup, but, if they can handle whatever the call volume is with that, then everything's great. I think, like we said, you have population growth or for whatever reason, they start having problems keeping up with volume, then we'd have to look at it. But, the chief's really good at, as you guys know, at answering these kind of things, so.
Yep.
Andrew, can I just have one last question? As far as on the receipt side, for accounting purposes, do you have to establish an allowance?
For,
For doubtful, uncollectible accounts? I'm just saying for accounting purposes.
for local receipts, we don't do that.
For any receipts in general, do the auditors recommend you book an allowance?
For the tax rate, we do have the overlay estimate in there. As far as, are you talking specifically annual receipts?
No, I'm talking in general, you estimate receipts, for accounting purposes, do you have to book an allowance to say, hey, we're estimating this?
You mean, we saying, we're reducing 40%.
We're estimating
last
this
year's.
is what we
Yeah.
should be taking in, and we're accounting for the fact that we do not expect to
Right.
take in this percentage or
Yeah.
this amount. Do you factor that in?
No, we budget for revenue and then we measure our performance against that. So to the extent that revenue beats expectations, that's counted as free cash. And to the extent that it doesn't, we make that elsewhere in the budget.
Yeah. So ultimately, we're trying to be conservative when we estimate our revenue.
So we essentially factor that into the estimate that we're creating.
Which is kind of,
And that leads
Just
us
kind
to
of-
how this may be.
Yep.
We started with very conservative estimates,
yeah.
basically
Okay.
80 to 90% of the prior year. A lot of these local receipts are heavily affected by the business cycle. And if you think about it, if the economy is doing well, people will buy new cars, renovate their home, to get restaurants, which will drive increase in revenues. But when the economy is not doing so well, people try to cut their spending, which causes these revenues to go down. So when we come up with this, not only do we look at the historical trend, but we try to incorporate some expectations of where the economy is headed. Any other questions or comments?
I think we're good there.
Sorry. The last slice of the pie is enterprise reimbursements. This accounts for about 2% of the budget. But basically, what happens is that there's some costs that are paid under the general fund. And what we do is we charge the enterprise funds to make the general fund whole. Health insurance costs and pension costs are tracked by the employee and charged back directly. Debt costs are reimbursed in full. And town hall services are allocated based on a percentage of the budget. There's a chargeback calculation that we do when we set up the budgets for the enterprises.
And what's the chargeback calculation? What is the chargeback calculation?
So the chargeback calculation is where we isolate and identify costs that are paid out of the general fund, and then charge them to the enterprise funds.
Yeah.
So we transfer money from the enterprises to the general fund because the general fund is paying for some of these costs.
Andrew, could you just explain that a little more? So like the health insurance, for example, is that like saying that the golf course, the employees there, we're paying their health insurance costs out of the general fund, but then the golf course enterprise fund is reimbursing us for that?
Exactly, that's exactly how it works.
Okay, all right.
We have one health insurance line item for the town. So the enterprise funds will pay their portion of that back to the general fund. And we do that with a transfer every year.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions there? All right.
So this, the next portion of this presentation is not on revenue specifically, but we wanted to talk a little bit about the debt situation that we have. And before we do that, I just wanted to explain the limits that the state imposes upon us. There are two limits, a 5% limit and a 10% limit. So for most normal circumstances, it's a 5% limit, and then we call that inside the debt limit. If we want to go beyond that, we can go up to 10% of the value of the town, but it requires a 2/3 vote, and it can only be used for specific projects like sewer and water infrastructure. Based on the $2.8 billion value of the town, our inside the debt limit is $140 million, and our outside the debt limit is $280 million. As for where we are right now, we have a grand total of $44.6 million in debt. Most of that is long-term debt outside the debt limit, and that's primarily for the high school, all for the high school. So we're about 1.6% of the value of the town compared to the normal limit of 5%. And if you want to think in terms of your own credit cards, you could say we're at 32% credit utilization. So it's a healthy spot. With rates on the rise, though, it's becoming more expensive to borrow. You used to be able to get 2 to 3% on bonds, now it's 4 to 5% and more rates keep going. Any questions on debt?
What's our current bond rating?
Thank you.
I do not know.
It was a double A.
Double A.
Double A.
Last time I saw it, and I don't think it's changed.
It hasn't.
But weren't we kicking around in the financial, town's financial policies, a limit where, like, are we up against how much debt we can take on?
That was definitely 100% told to us.
That was, so
Yeah.
it was, what was discussed last year was if we adopt the proposed financial practices for the town, we would be either close to or up against what our own self-imposed debt limit would be.
It really wasn't our own, it was a company telling us this is how we should function, you know? Or
No,
That's like, these are just standard,
This one was.
these are just sort of standard.
Scott was putting together like the
A
sort of
policy. for
policy
us to
of,
track.
this is the way that we want to run our
Didn't somebody say it
budget.
came
as
from
a
another town?
It came from another, it was a cut and paste that a lot of towns use.
I didn't mean like a town's telling us to do it, more like this is
Yeah.
what other towns are using as guidelines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
And-
not necessarily a one-size-fits-all either, as we discussed. And that's kind of where we left it off, was that, you know, we really do. And actually, I even, you know, we've had a couple of meetings with one of the guys who was the head of the, you know, the finance directors group. He's recently retired, and he had looked and met with Andrew and I to look over those and kind of said the same thing. Said, that's something that you really want to tailor make, and some of those, some of the things that we had in there, he just said might not be the best idea for your community. So he was actually looking at them again with us and kind of making some recommendations.
Yeah, because when you look at this slide, you're like, oh, well, we're well under the 5%, that's good, but then you look at the policy, and it's like, no, you can't take on any more debt.
Right.
Yeah. Well, internally, though, and we still may want to look at that, that comes right off the top. All right, especially, the shorter term debt, the ones that's inside the levy, we want to really be careful with what we're doing with that. And I'm not comfortable borrowing a lot more right now, if we don't have to. So, some of the road projects that we want to get done, that we're going to try and work with, the American Recovery Plan Act money that we have down in Rockland to actually get a kickstart on some of those things. And you'll see when the capital plan comes to you in the next, whatever meeting we decide to go over that. We're trying to avoid borrowing heavily on those things and trying to make sure that we're using free cash or pay as you go going forward, because of this, we just want to hold that down.
You do.
All right, anything else?
Looks like we're good there.
All right, so that covers where the money comes from, and where does the money go? Stay tuned. We've got the budget hearing schedule. Swap my screen.
It's like a cliffhanger, Andrew.
Yeah, right.
Next season.
But wait, there's more.
On the next episode of Finance Meeting.
Riveting television.
So we have departments booked for the 21st, and also in through all Wednesdays in January. And we'll expand the schedule out if we need to, but we'll be having departments come in and talk to you about budgets and how we spend their money, figure out where the money does go.
Yeah,
This is tentative, depending on whether or not the department's heads can meet it, but a lot of people are confirmed already.
We can get a copy of that.
Yeah, I can distribute this.
Oh, that would be great.
I don't
I do
like,
have one question.
oh, go ahead.
Question. I assume that you are assuming this year that the increase in the taxes will be the maximum that you can possibly increase them.
Correct, the 2.5%.
And last year, that led to an overall budget increase of over 5%. It's the state aid and everything else.
The state aid increased by 17%.
Yeah. So
So
we didn't, when we say 2.5%, it isn't that the budget is only going up 2.5%. It's the
levy.
the tax portion of the revenue is only going up 2.5%.
that's correct.
Okay.
Chris, are you all set with that? Yes, with this. I don't like the look of having the school on a night with other departments as well. School usually takes a long time to go through.
Same with police and fire on nights where we have three other. We could do probably two others and fire, or two others and police, but I think four departments on a night that we have fire and police is,
So maybe move one off of the 11th and one off of the 18th into the 25th, and then move school, or move those to the week after the 25th, along with town manager and the VOTEC, since those aren't confirmed yet. Something like
I mean, there's a
that.
good shot I'll be here. I can confirm now if you like.
I was gonna ask, man.
So like cable or golf, council on aging, planning or IT, like 2 of those 5. Town manager and VOTEC move out to the first week of February.
Yeah. You can save me for the end.
Play around with it.
Yeah. Just because I know school takes a long time, fire takes a long time, police takes a long time. So having a lot with fire and police makes for a very long night, and it makes us very loopy at the end, so we're not paying as close attention as we should be for the
Yeah,
budgets.
you get candy now.
And then,
That's true.
and then we get the sugar crash.
Yeah, Advil for the
And
end of it.
school is so big that we don't really want to have anything else that long, so. We could also, in past years, we've had school on a Saturday. And I don't mean that we've gone to school on a Saturday, I mean we've had the school department meeting on a Saturday because it affords us a little more time and concentration.
But can I just ask, like, if
No.
we're looking at level set budget,
No,
why do we,
Because people are gonna
So-
wanna ask questions, what
and
stuff. they
so
don't understand.
especially with the school department, a level
Level service.
level services budget is never exactly the same, and there's a lot of fluctuation.
right, but when
With it.
80% of the budget is salary, we're looking at 20%. We're looking at 20% of their budget. Because 80% of it is what it is. And let's all be,
So
we're only looking at one number.
well, so one of the things, like last year with the increase in state aid, we were looking at the salary. We were looking at what positions is that going to go to? Which things are the highest need? Which things do we think, like, do we have feedback for them on, like, where the money is being spent, which positions are most impactful, fit best into the budget, how adding additional positions impacts the budget past that fiscal year into year after year after year, when, like, in some instances, there's been state aid that's been sent to the town, and we're giving you this aid for this year. And when they're looking at that, they're like, hey, we can hire this teacher with this money. And we're thinking, yes, but if we hire this teacher, we're paying this teacher for 20 years, not 1 year when we have funding from the state. So there's a lot of things that do go into it year to year that it tends to take a long time to go through all of it. So. And then we have people on the committee who ask a lot of questions, so.
Which is important.
Well, I thought we were, that was like this document that we got tonight on the assessors of, which I thought was great.
Yes.
You know, kind of outline what the highlights are. Thought we were gonna get those for all, to try to cut down on the amount of time that we have to kind of grill the different department heads on this.
Well, you will get them for each department. Everybody's gonna,
And then we go over them, and then
Yeah.
you can ask
Well, and
questions.
I agree, those should help us to be more streamlined. Going through the budget departments and going through this schedule. I just know from past years' experience, especially fire, police, and schools, if we've got too much on the same nights of those become really hard nights.
The only thing I was gonna say is you could maybe combine school and golf, because golf doesn't seem to take up any time.
So golf doesn't take up much, cable doesn't take up
Right,
much.
so if you could switch stuff around, you could have 3 in a night, which, I mean, the golf really is 5 or 10 questions tops,
Yeah.
maybe.
And if they did the outline, to me, it could be 2 questions. Because they're hitting the highlights to us. Because, like, especially if it's a presentation, kind of like this, you can see it versus just saying, oh, here's our budget. Now it's up to us to start to probe and ask questions, but like, they hit the.
Townspeople want us
So I
looking
was
at
gonna say,
every
one-
single penny that's being spent, and that it should be being spent, right?
Okay, but let me push back on that. Didn't you look at the year before? You looked at it the year before, what's changed from last year to this year? Like that vision contract, we looked at it last year, we looked at it this year. It's like, okay, what more is there to look at? That's what I'm saying.
Right.
They want us to look at that. But if we established the baseline, we looked at it last year, what is there to look and probe this year if nothing's changed?
Well, you
But maybe something has. How do we know it's not changed?
Request to.
Yeah.
She has,
So
like,
Right, but I'm just saying though.
I will say another factor that goes into it. So say using golf as an example, coming here before this committee and being on our broadcast of these meetings does provide the department heads and the department in general an opportunity to sort of present themselves to the town.
Right.
And to the citizens of the town. I think that's an important part of what happens here. There's not always a lot of exposure for the different departments. And a lot of times, like I know library, police, golf, a lot of the departments go through what a lot of their services are, and people that watch the meetings find out things they didn't know were available to them before. So that's usually in the highlights, like we got.
Right, yeah, like tonight, that's the thing, if we had an outline.
But I do think it will help to streamline.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for them to get at least some of that time and have it be more than us trying to rush through it, so. And I did get a message from Dan. He lost internet where he is.
oh, I thought you were saying interest.
Oh, he lost interest.
He said he lost interest.
Internet and interest in everything that we're working on tonight. So he's trying to get reconnected, but is having trouble with it.
Just when you thought you were out.
Yeah.
Right back in.
Yeah, well, I got the message from him that he was going to be out of state tonight, and could I run it in person? Like, I didn't have to schedule it, so there's that.
All right, so I think Andrew and I can definitely tweak this schedule a little bit, and we'll distribute it.
Looks good. A few little tweaks here and there should be.
Again, the goal is
Put us in a
to
good position.
try not to get behind, so we're not there at the end. And we did have that discussion that, there may be somewhere February or March where we say we're going to have to meet twice in a week or a Saturday or something.
One of the things in previous years that has worked, has seemed to ebb and flow with how good it's been, is the ability to get people in to talk to us about the different warrant articles. Like, sometimes there are warrant articles that have financial impact. Sometimes they don't come from the departments. And the ability to have people come and talk to us before we have to actually vote on those is sometimes hard because of the deadline for warrant articles, but
When it was.
when it gets closed and knowing what's actually going to be on it. But if we could keep an eye on that this year.
And if we can try to remember, I usually do try to remember to ask departments in case they
Yes.
forget, but if we can try to remember to ask departments as they come in, do they have any warrant articles? That sometimes will.
Yeah, so we'll be opening the warrant Monday. Probably looking to close it in
Tuesday.
right? February, we were originally looking the 27th, but we'll probably close it February 13th, because we are, well, planning board needs more, time to hold their hearings.
Right.
Your deadline for, getting your votes published to the town clerk is March 23rd. So next week is my deadline as far as getting that initial budget, that first draft, and the capital plan to the selectmen. So that's our plan. And it's Monday, April 3rd, 7 p.m.
So when's the capital plan go to the election?
Probably Monday. I mean, they'll get it. You saw the draft of it. It hasn't changed much. We've tweaked it a little bit, but they'll have it and you'll have it. I don't know when we'll actually do the review of it. Probably not till my guess is sometime in February. We'll have to have a night for it. And once we sort of decide that this, we're going forward and how we're funding it.
Said April 7th?
Today's the 7th?
No, somebody's,
Oh.
April 3rd?
April 3rd,
Is the,
Monday, April 3rd,
that's the town meeting?
7 PM,
6 PM for us.
6 PM for us, high school auditorium.
Should probably put like 3.
Good idea.
That's what I want.
All right, Andrew, back to you.
That's all I had.
All right,
Awesome.
excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andrew.
Really good stuff. I'm going to move quickly here. Our next agenda item is review of outstanding meeting minutes. We have minutes that were distributed to us from our meetings on August 17th, September 7th, September 14th, and September 27th. Looking quickly at the August 17th meeting minutes. Let's see. Andrew, Barbara, and Joe, who's no longer on the committee, were not here. So let's see. Dan, we lost Paul, me, Greg, and Chris. We have 4 people who can vote on this. Any comments or questions on the August 17th meeting minutes?
Make a motion to approve the August meeting minutes.
Motion from Paul. Is there a second?
From Greg.
Greg.
Gregory? Thanks.
Second from Greg.
It's
All those in favor of approving the August 17th minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All those abstaining?
Me.
Abstain.
Yep. They are approved. Next up, we have the meeting minutes for September 7th. Let's see, we had Dan, Marty, Chris, Sarah, myself, Barbara, and Andrew here. Greg was excused.
Motion to approve the meeting minutes of September 7th.
And Paul was not noted whether he was in attendance or not. I think you
It
were.
may need to be noted, I was there.
Okay, so there's an amendment to the minutes to note that Paul was here. Are there any other comments on the minutes? Okay, is there
Motion to approve.
motion to approve as amended from Chris? Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Barbara. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? Greg abstains. The minutes are approved. Thank you. The September 14th meeting minutes. We have, once again, very memorable Paul is left off of the minutes. We had Dan, Greg, Marty, Chris, Barbara, Sarah, and myself. Andrew was not there. And then it went through the articles we were looking at. This was leading up to the fall town meeting,
Motion to approve the meeting minutes of September
14th,
14th
with an amendment.
with an amendment
Paul,
to add Paul to the present list.
because Paul is a present. Is there a second?
That's why he's sitting there.
Seconded by Marty. Is there any further discussion on the September 14th meeting minutes? Without any, all those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Abstaining? Andrew?
Abstain.
The minutes are approved. Thank you all. And then lastly, we have our meeting minutes on the 27th of September, which was the pre-meeting for the fall town meeting, the special town meeting in fall. And I don't have an attendance list on that. I think we were.
I think Paul was there.
I think we were all there. Paul was a present. It was a gift to us all that night.
We were all there.
I think everyone was there.
Motion to approve meeting minutes for the September 27th.
So motion to approve, is there a second? Seconded by Marty, motioned by Barbara. Is there any further discussion on the minutes from the 27th?
Nope.
No further discussion. All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
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 All those opposed, abstaining, it is unanimous. They are approved, and that is all of the meeting minutes we have in front of us. Thank you very much. Correspondence was next on our agenda. Nobody checked the mailbox, so we might or might not have correspondence. We'll check it next meeting. Liaison reports. Do we have any liaison reports to note?
John?
Chris?
I just say that the water department made a presentation, the budget wasn't completely finished. The primary change from that we'll see is a very large increase in the cost of the chemicals they use to treat water. So that's something, it's like $200,000 increase, I think makes sense. That's about it.
Thanks, Chris. Any other liaison reports?
I think John Stone got a bucket truck. Yep. Yep.
And 65,000.
I know. So I was waiting for you to say it.
Right, we did not spend the full 100,000. We did help.
That's gonna help in one of these little spots.
More than covers, say, for example, we were upping a position for part-time.
For a year. For a year.
Well, I'm under the, I probably should meter myself. I think when people do that, there is a large portion of that should go to them. And then what I mean by them is their budgets. I think the people that are doing that, and it's a big deal because that's, I don't know, from what I heard, one of the first times that we've done that, and that's a good thing. From what I understand, it was not a piece of crap what he got. It was pretty good, and it's going to do exactly what they need. It might not do it for 20 years, but
So it worked, it was great, we get it in a pinch.
yeah,
We went up to New York.
Yeah.
And ended up delivering it. So it was a great find, and it's a good truck.
it was a tree cut truck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Anything else from DPW or any other liaison reports?
Oh,
Yes, I met with the planning department, and Scott pretty much already gave a precursor to what that discussion entailed. Basically, they're looking for a $75,000 to $80,000 increase for a town planner, but there's a, as Scott mentioned, there's a discussion about whether there should be consultant services or whether or not there should be a dedicated town employee. I just met on Monday with them, so I'll type up the notes from that meeting and circulate it to the board in advance of the next meeting. I've had some preliminary conversations with the clerk's office. They're essentially looking at level funding, but they are concerned about potential salary increases for some staff just to ensure staff retention, so they're going to get me those figures, and I'll report back on that as soon as I have them.
Excellent. Thanks, Andrew.
Yeah, and I think, on that note, we are prepared to, we were funded for a compensation classification study, and we're prepared to put that bid out probably next week or the week after, just fine tuning it. So, we will be looking to address any issues with recruitment and retainment after that study's complete.
Anything else? Next item, and our final item on the agenda, is discuss the schedule for future finance committee meetings during the budget review session, which we actually went over during the review of the budget and process. Do we have any other, so our next meeting, according to that schedule, is 2 weeks from tonight on the 21st. And I already forget which departments that was with.
Yeah.
But we are getting.
There it is. Treasurer and town council.
Oh,
Sorry.
Yeah, excellent job.
It's like a
It's lockbox. That is, do we have anything else, Scott, to discuss on the future meeting schedule?
No, I think that's it. We'll continue on. Again, if there's any more information or anything else we can do to take the mystery out of what we do here. I will say though, our consultant that I do our quarterly newsletters with and some of our PR with, we've decided we're going to spotlight the work of this group in the next newsletter. Because it is important work. We're trying to make sure that people are interested and actually know what we are doing or what the work of your board is doing. So she'll hopefully be able to sit in one of the meetings in February. She's out right now, but hopefully in February or March. And then in that newsletter just before town meeting, we're going to discuss this board. So be on your best behavior. You too.
Next week. I got a question for statistician number one. Chris, are you getting the information that you need?
I was able to get into the system and I could do the search and kind of figure out what the numbers were. I was not aware that we had any real numbers in there for the budget until this meeting I planned. I've been away the last week, so I have not looked at them.
Okay.
But I will have to go to Andrew and find out how the accounts are set up, the chart of accounts, because it's not necessarily obvious. But I think I can get in when I need to.
Yeah, I can go over that.
Yeah.
So you know.
Okay.
Any other questions, points of business, points of discussion, motions?
Motion to adjourn.
Marty with motion to adjourn.
Yeah, I'll let Marty.
And Greg might be seconding.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Greg is back seconding it. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, the motion to adjourn? Aye. Opposed, abstaining, we are adjourned. Thank you very much.